let me get into it then. Episode 37, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. We learn about the first homunculus. Woo! So we start off, Edward is getting his automail upgraded by Winry. Kimberly's issuing orders to try to keep Alphonse separated from Edward, probably so that they can't signal each other back and forth. I'm not really sure what that's about. Olivier actually sends a search party down into the tunnels to search for the missing troops finally. And they do come across a couple of survivors, and I'm like, oh my god, they're going to die. And the survivors are like, turn off the lights. And you can see like the eyeball, like the shadow in the tunnel kind of like wake up and look around. And I'm like, oh, they are so dead.
Yeah, they're so fucked.
And then it shoots back to Hawkeye. Hawkeye had to stop by Bradley's house. I can't remember exactly why. She had to go by King Bradley's house to drop something off or get some information. But whatever the case, she's talking to King Bradley's wife. And then she like gets really freaked out. And you see like this little shadow creep up like out of the corner of her eye. And when she turns around, it's just his adopted son, Salim Bradley. And I was like, oh my god, is Salim a homunculus too? Is Salim bad? Right. You know what I mean? And Salim is acting like extra suspicious, like, hey, what are you doing here? Right. And I was like, Salim, dude. So when she's leaving, she hears a familiar voice call out, and it's the same voice that Pride used when talking to King Bradley when you couldn't see Pride. Salim is Pride. And Hawkeye discovers or suspects this because before she leaves, when she's talking to Bradley's wife, she admits, and this is why Salim gets upset, that Salim is her stepkid. Right. And is actually Salim Bradley's blood son, which we know not to be true, but that's how they're posing it. Right. So when she found that out, she was like, oh shit, Bradley can't have kids. What's going on? And then Pride's like, yeah, she gave up too much information, but I'm watching you from the shadows. And he like uses shadows to like basically wrap her up and almost like I think he like cut her cheek. And she's like, you're not going to kill me because then you won't have any leverage. And he was like, you're too smart for your own good, but I'm watching you. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit. So
that surprised you, obviously.
Yeah. No, it definitely surprised me. And Salim having these shadows, like he even said, don't compare me to another homunculus, like gluttony. I'm the first homunculus. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But the powers are sick. Like there's a reason why Pride is so prideful. Like Pride can literally use the power of shadow to insta-kill anybody. Yeah. I mean, you saw what happened in the tunnels. The spikes came out and just ripped those guys up. They had no chance. Yeah. He can move very fast. He can move via shadows. There is a way to counteract his ability, but that's to have no light at all. Right. And that doesn't seem safe. Right. So we shoot over to Kimberly, who orders Edward to search for Scar and Marco with him so they can create a blood crest similar to Ishval in Briggs Fortress. They want to put one there. And again, it's probably all part of the grand plan of the giant crest. Right. He tempts Edward with offering to give him a Philosopher's Stone if he accepts. Edward does accept, but you can already tell that he's probably not going to use it. He kind of winks at Alphonse too. Alphonse can tell like, okay, he's accepting this, but it's for ulterior motives, right? Right. And Alphonse kind of lets Winry know on the situation. Edward accepts the job. Before they leave, Winry comes up with an excuse to go with them. And she goes, I just upgraded your auto mail, and if it messes up, then I gotta be the one to fix it. And her long diatribe and story, Kimberly's like, fine, come along, who cares? Right. Fuck. So they all go along to search for Scar, Winry in tow. The real intent that they suspect is to find May, learn that Jing alchemy, right? Mm-hmm. I think Central is starting to kind of get on board with that too. So you go to the next episode. Hawkeye gets a call from Mustang. It's almost like Mustang intuitively knew Hawkeye was having a bad time. Right. But Hawkeye was super, lips are sealed, right? Because I don't want Pride coming over and hearing anything. So she couldn't really say anything. But it was a nice exchange. You could tell they're in tune with each other. In the town of Baskul, where they're looking for, it's like an abandoned town, the Alchemist brothers and Winry, they end up losing the guards assigned to them just by running off and creating a false wall. And then almost immediately after, they run into May, Marco, and Yoki. And Yoki explains in detail that he actually knows Edward and he was banished from the state military because of the Elric brothers, but no one's paying attention to him.
So if you watch the original series, that whole, there's a whole episode with him in it. So
they had to catch us up in Brotherhood.
Exactly.
And I think it's funny that all the characters are like, yeah, whatever. Right. Because it just shows how much they care about his backstory.
Exactly.
Now, in a different part of a school, Scar encounters another pair of Kimblee's men, 2 soldiers named Jerso and Zapano, who turn into chimeras.
Yeah.
One of them has like super spit, and the other one shoots a lot of spikes.
And he's like, when he
right.
spits.
And they're like, we studied you. We know you try to use alchemy on the ground when things get hairy. So they pinned him to the ground when he tried to use it with the sticky spit. And Edward and Alphonse arrive just in time to beat back the chimeras, and they re-restrain Scar themselves. Winry and Miles arrive. Miles, of course, that Ishvalan soldier that works at Briggs. And Winry confronts Scar face-to-face about the deaths of her parents. And then they shoot to an explosion created by Scar that like shoots forward. And Edward escapes out, and he's yelling at Kimblee like, you were supposed to watch Winry! And they look up at the above of the building, and Scar has taken Winry hostage.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I don't know about this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it just seems suspect to me. I didn't believe it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then meanwhile, you shoot over to Olivier's squad, who retrieved the survivors from the tunnels. They actually got back, but it took them a really long time because they couldn't use lights. Soldiers from Central came to retrieve Olivier, and Briggs Fortress is now being approached by all those soldiers. So like they're all coming from Central to get Olivier, it looks like. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think I know why. Might have something to do with a certain missing top general.
Yeah.
So you shoot to the next episode, the 3rd episode, and this is where I got kind of annoyed. They really went over all of the painstaking details of Winry's kidnapping to like an insane degree. Like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I get it.
All right.
But basically, when Winry's confronting Scar and she's faced the man who killed her parents, she decides to start bandaging his wounds, saying that it was something her parents would have done. Right. And that kind of touches Scar. And then Miles talks to Scar and says, hey, I joined the military to try to gradually change the way people think of Ishvalans from the inside. And he agrees to help Edward. May and Marco kind of need Scar to decipher his brother's research because it's written in ancient Ishvalan.
Mm-hmm.
And Miles said, hey, I can hide y'all at the fort so we can get you out of here, figure it out, and, I'm not with these Central fools. Let's do this. Miles then turns to kill the 2 chimeras that they caught, and Alphonse convinces him to stay their hand. He's like, they're human, or they were once human. And the chimeras are like, man, whatever, kill us, we don't care. And Alphonse is like, don't you have families? He's like, yeah, but we can never go back. We can never get our bodies back. And Alphonse reveals that he's a suit of armor. He's like, I'm still fighting. You guys should fight too. And they're like, they're starting to be kind of convinced. And then they find out about somebody let it slip, the central plot about how everybody's going to die. And they're like, what's this about? And then they realize like what plot they were a part of. And then I think these guys are going to turn into good guys. But basically they're convinced like, hey, we'll go with you. You can bind our hands if you don't trust us. We're done fighting for Central. We're going to try to fight to get our bodies back and go back to our families. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's nice. Alphonse out here changing lives.
I would just keep the Chimera body, though. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if they're trying to sneak by, I can see why they'd want to go back to human form. At least to make them feel better. Because if they're bound and they're also...
No. I mean, as far as getting their original bodies back. Like, just keep the super spit and shit and, go live with your family.
I don't know. It may have something to do with the amount of energy it takes to look humanoid when you're actually a chimera. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, like you said, if it was that easy, they'd probably just choose that. But I don't think it's that easy.
Right.
Winry does come up with the whole ruse to make it look like Scar has kidnapped her so they can elude Kimblee. And Scar and company, after the big escape attempt, they head for the fort via tunnels in the mine just before a blizzard's about to set in, so that way they can escape the blizzard. And Alphonse and Miles had stayed behind. Miles, or actually I think Edward too, Miles receives word that Olivier is no longer commander of Briggs and has been relieved of command. It's now being controlled by state alchemists. And they kind of need to warn the group that's heading there. Alphonse willingly goes into the blizzard because he's like, I don't have a body. I don't have to be warned. But then he goes out in the blizzard and he's like,
right.
Like, I was like, you sound kind of cold.
Right. Which is also a plot hole. Why are you cold?
Yeah. Why are you breathing like that? You're a suit of armor. But he goes out into the blizzard to try to find and warn the group. And he kind of hallucinates from the cold, and he actually sees his body for a moment. And then he starts to ruminate on whether or not, like, a body separated will constantly try to seek out its soul and how that works. And then they shoot to the last scene of the 3rd episode. Father, making alchemic plans. He's got the big, huge alchemy symbol outlined around Amestris. He's pointing to one, going, okay, we got Alphonse for this, Edward for this sacrifice, Hohenheim, Izumi, which is Alphonse and Edward's alchemy teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need one more candidate. I was like, oh, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of that. So whatever these sacrifices entail, it sounds like our main characters are going to be a major sacrifice. And the through line is they're all pretty powerful alchemists. I mean, you can say Alphonse and Edward aren't as powerful as Hohenheim and Izumi, but all 4 of them that he mentioned have seen the truth.
Right.
So that may have something to do with it. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. How you feeling?
These episodes kind of largely took place in the same spot. There wasn't a whole lot going on. The biggest thing for me was probably just the reveal of Pride, I think.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, like I said, things are moving, and allies are starting to shore up like I talked about before, and now we have the 2 Chimeras, Scar's on our side now. Like, things are looking up, but like everybody's squaring off to actually bring the fight to Central and have a fighting chance. So
nice.
I mean, we're getting up there, right? I only got like 20